Welcome to Betting in the Break, where we are going to get you information that you need from great pickers like the guy who joins me tonight, Sniper West, who had a great week on the show last week. The idea is to either help you grow your bankroll because you won earlier today, or if you're down, we'll help you get even. By the way, through Winners and Winers, sign up to the King of Sportsbooks with our BetMGM welcome offer of up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Must be 21 plus in a legalized state. Terms and conditions apply. First bet offer up to $1,500 in bonus bets. BetMGM. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. New users only, please. Okay. Of course, here in Washington State, the only way to gamble legally is in an actual Native American casino sports book like Little Creek Casino Resort, where I've got a bunch of tickets this weekend, and I'll go through my actual bet tickets a little bit later in the show. But first, Sniper West, you're going to break down the 4 late games we have on the slate tonight and help people cash some tickets. By the way, you were like 75% last week, right, on the show?
I think so, something like that. Hopefully it'll be like that every week. It's, usually you aim for 55% if you can, but yeah, we'll see what happens this week.
I started today 7 up and 3 down in college football in my best bets over at Winners and Winers. So happy. I'm at about I'm 1-1 today so far, but go ahead. Take it away.
All right. Well, I am going to start with Virginia and Maryland. This game goes off at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you have about 40 minutes to get it in as we speak right now. So Maryland is 1-1. Virginia is 2-0. I was actually on Virginia last week. They beat Wake Forest, and I was on that for a premium play. But I'm high on Virginia. It's a huge win for the Cavaliers. This could be a big letdown spot for them because they had not beaten Wake Forest in a long time. But I don't think they're going to let down. I think that they're going to play really well here tonight. Maryland embarrassed Virginia last year, 42-14. So Virginia has a lot of revenge here. And believe me, there's a lot of new players in the program, but there's a lot of boosters and upperclassmen here that will let these kids know about what happened last year, the 42-14 defeat. And they were embarrassed, and they're going to want to come out, and they're going to want to beat Maryland and take it to them. The line has been ticking toward Virginia all week, too. I actually got them plus 2.5 earlier in the week. They're about +1 or even maybe a pick 'em by now. But for purposes of the show, I will give out Virginia as a pick 'em. And, I like that play. I think they're going to do well. My second game, I like Indiana. I'm going to lay the 3 in the hook over UCLA. So UCLA plays in the Rose Bowl, but it might as well be a neutral site because UCLA, they don't get any fan support. I mean, there might actually be more Hoosier fans there than Bruin fans, to be honest with you. The Hoosiers are 2-0. They beat FIU 31-7 in week 1. UCLA beat Hawaii and Boise State pretty convincingly, so they look pretty good, but these programs have never played each other. It is their first Big Ten matchup. Yes, UCLA is in the Big Ten now, which is weird. I'm still getting used to all these new conferences and the teams in the conferences. But Indiana, they've averaged 557 yards per game. Granted, one of those was against an FCS team, WIU. It was 77-3. So the stats you shouldn't look into the stats too much. But still, they can move the ball, and I really, really like this Indiana coaching staff. They ran the ball for 234 yards against FIU, and FIU is a decent college team, and I think they're going to do that against UCLA too. I like the Hoosiers here. I'm going to lay the 3 in the hook in Pasadena with Indiana over UCLA. I also like my third play. I'm going to lay it with BYU. BYU minus 10.5 over Wyoming. So Wyoming just looks terrible, just dreadful. They lost to Idaho 17-13 last week. FCS Idaho. It's just pathetic, man.
Yeah, and it's a sad thing is I actually have sort of a soft spot for the Wyoming Cowboys program because I'm a huge Longmire fan. And so that was his alma mater. So because I'm a fan of those books in the show, I kind of have a soft spot for Wyoming, and boy, do they stink.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they just can't generate any offense. And I mean, I get the games in Laramie, but there's some elevation in Laramie, but BYU, they play in elevation, right? In Utah. And they've been impressive. They beat SMU 18-15, and I'm actually high on SMU this year, and they beat them as a dog. So they held SMU to 15 points, which is very impressive. And
right.
They have a tough strength of schedule too, and I can't back Wyoming here. It's only 10.5. I think BYU wins this by 17 points. Cross my fingers and hope to die. We'll see what happens. But BYU minus 10.5 over Wyoming. My final play. Actually, no, I have 2 more plays here for you. I like Cal tonight minus the 17.5 over San Diego State. So Cal beat Auburn last week, 21-14. Very impressive. They're actually getting some top 25 votes, which again is very impressive. They held Auburn to under 300 yards of total offense, which is very impressive. SDSU, I don't know how they're going to move the ball. If you remember last week, I actually gave you on this video Oregon State over SDSU. They were laying, I think, double digits, possibly. Maybe it was 8.5. I don't know, but they beat them by, I think, 21-0 or something like that. And Danny O'Neal, it's the SDSU quarterback. He's a young freshman. I even said on the show that I think if you put pressure on this kid, he's never seen a college football defense before. He went 11 for 24 for 107 yards. He just had a bad night. And, now he's got to face Cal, a team that's getting top 25 votes. So I think Cal's going to win this game by a lot of points. And I'm going to lay the 17.5 with the Cal Golden Bears. My final lean, I am going to take the New Mexico State Aggies over Fresno State. So it's about plus 19, I believe, last I looked. You might want to double check these lines for me, Loud, because I looked at them in the morning. But Anyway, both these teams are 1-1. New Mexico State, they just lost 30-24 to Liberty. Fresno State beat Sacramento State 46-30, but Sacramento State, that's an FCS team, and they gave up 30 points to an FCS team, so that's worrisome. New Mexico State, they are not an offensive juggernaut, and they do not pass the ball very well at all. But what they do is they run the ball. They run. They keep running and running and running like Forrest Gump or the Energizer Bunny. And they're just going to keep running the ball all night. They ran it 44 times versus Liberty, and they're probably going to run it 45 times tonight. So, even if they don't run the ball successfully, they're going to eat up a lot of clock. And remember, okay, the total in this game is 47.5. Okay. Why is that important if we're taking the side? Because we're getting plus 19. So we're getting plus 19 on a total of 47.5. So we are getting 40% of the points in the game before the game even starts, which is pretty good, as Larry David would say. So I am rolling with the New Mexico State Aggies plus the 19 over the Fresno State Bulldogs. It's an ugly duckling play allowed, but big girls need love too. So I'm taking New Mexico State. I'm taking New Mexico State plus the 19 over Fresno State. So let me recap just for people that might be tuning in. So I like Virginia over Maryland money line. I like Indiana minus 3.5 over UCLA. I like BYU minus 10.5 over Wyoming, and I like New Mexico State plus 19 over Fresno State. Those are my plays.
All right, those are your plays from Sniper West on the late games tonight. There's some interesting games actually taking place right now, and one that kicks off very shortly in that Tennessee game. I was on Tennessee last week minus some humongous number, and they covered. And I was on Ole Miss last week minus, I think, something like 53, and they covered. And so my earlier picks today, I had the Notre Dame game under 45.5. Notre Dame went over that themselves. Yeah. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out this Notre Dame team. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so everybody should know that. That's with the green tie, because Notre Dame is back today, baby. They destroyed Wake Forest. It was one of the biggest blowouts of the day, and they looked absolutely fantastic. And then, they beat a top 20 team on the road first game out. But every year, Wes, they seem to drop a game to somebody like Marshall or NIU at home under Marcus Freeman. And I just can't figure out why that keeps happening.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman at his finest. I knew they were going to bounce back today. So yeah, if we're going to start discussing the day, then yeah, so you're having problems figuring out Notre Dame. Unfortunately, I must have them pegged pretty good, because last week I had NIU plus the points, and today I had Notre Dame. And what's funny about this game, I actually laid 10 earlier in the week. I put my plays in early because I try to beat these lines. I laid 10 with Notre Dame, and then I saw it went down to 7.5, and it absolutely ruined my night last night. I was so upset, and I couldn't even. I literally lost sleep over it, because I lost 2.5 points on the line, and then they won by a gajillion, so it didn't even matter anyway. But yeah. So I don't know. Maybe
the line could have been just about anything, and you would have covered a couple interesting things from earlier today. Just things that I think people need to maybe be aware of going forward. LSU is not really very good. They are not very good on defense. They have one or two really good players that are going to go to the NFL, but they just cannot stop giving up points. And on offense, they make too many mistakes. So if you see LSU with some huge line, of course, they failed to cover again today. They were minus 8.5 at South Carolina. Alabama, well, guess what? Saban's gone, doesn't make any difference. They keep covering spreads and just beating down the teams they should beat down. Florida State. Oh my goodness. From undefeated last year to 0-3 to start the year this year, losing today to Memphis. I will be fading them the rest of the season because I don't think there's anybody in that locker room that's got the character to pull that team together. The coach obviously doesn't. These guys are a bunch of mercenaries on this team that came in expecting NIL money and a chance at a national championship. Now that that's gone, I don't see what holds this team together.
Yeah, no, I agree. It looks very, very, very bad in Tallahassee. Some other games that you were just discussing. So yeah, Wisconsin and Alabama. So I actually was on Wisconsin. So I lost that game pretty badly. But the irritating thing is Tyler Van Dyke, Wisconsin's quarterback, he went out the first drive. So, I mean, I don't know if Wisconsin still would have covered. I don't know what would have happened in the game after that, but it's just kind of it's deflating to you when your quarterback that you're backing goes out the first drive of the game. And then, just all goes to hell after that. South Carolina and LSU, I was on the Gamecocks plus the 7 because I got it in a couple days ago. It went down to 6 by kickoff. That was a very exciting game. Luckily the Gamecocks they covered for me there. We talked about Notre Dame already. I was actually on a game that you talked about over on Sports Rage earlier this week, the Washington State and Washington under.
I was on that under.
Yeah, I went to 54. I actually had it at 56.5 because again, I beat these lines. I got them in early. And it didn't matter because I think it finished under 50 points. But that was a really good play. I thought the weather might come into effect there because there was supposed to be some rain and some wind, which actually it wasn't even really that bad. But luckily the fourth quarter was really slow and I lucked out there. So I actually went 3-2. No, that's not true because I have Florida over Texas A&M plus 3.5. But I think Florida is losing pretty bad right now.
Florida's getting beat by like 20.
Yeah, so
and they look even worse.
But that's another bad play for me too because their quarterback, Florida's quarterback, he went out 30 minutes before the game. They announced he was out, and so I had 2 quarterbacks go down on me today, and both those games are the 2 I'm going to lose. The other 3 I'm going to win. So just maybe some bad luck, and we'll see what happens in the evening games. I have 5 premium plays for the evening, but a lot of interesting stuff going on in college this morning.
Another team that I'm liking a lot to cover is Boston College. They did it again today. Yes, Bill Callahan has that team playing really, really good, hard-nosed. We're going to fight to the last drop, Boston College. And that's, Boston College is, I'm a Catholic kid, grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school my whole life, all the way through college. And I didn't go to a public school until my first day at the university.
That explains the Notre Dame thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my family is Irish, so I'm from an Irish Catholic family. So I don't have any choice but to be a Notre Dame fan. Boston College is sort of the place that kids go on the East Coast when they can't afford or don't have the grades for the bigger schools in the Catholic universities. So. It's got a pretty blue collar attitude. So Bill Callahan and what he's building there fits good. So there are some teams to keep an eye on, both positive and negative, going forward. I have an interesting parlay card over at Little Creek that I wanted to get your opinions on. Something that I like to do is I will take a bunch of super heavy favorites and I will put them on a parlay card, all on money line bets. So they're minus huge numbers, and there's no value in them at all on the money line as a single bet. But if you stack a bunch of them up, you can get 3-1, 4-1 odds on a bunch of teams that I think have very little chance of losing. So here are the teams on my card. Oklahoma Sooners. Okay, they beat Tulane. I have Ole Miss to beat Wake Forest. I've got Georgia to beat Kentucky, Kansas City to beat the Bengals, San Francisco to beat the Vikings, Philadelphia to beat the Falcons. Keep in mind that game is at home for Philadelphia. And the Baltimore Ravens have the Raiders coming to town. So that's like the lock of the day, is the Ravens will beat the Raiders. So you stack all those up, and a $75 ticket pays you back $341.50. What do you think the chances are that any of those teams lose?
The team that stuck out to me, believe it or not, you might be surprised, but is the San Francisco 49ers in the Vikings game. So
there's a chance.
I am high on the Vikings. I am
Right.
high on the Vikings this week. I don't know that the Vikings are going to win the game, but my whole thing, so the Niners, they look great, right, on Monday Night Football. I get that. But now you kind of get that game out of the way. And they had a bunch of guys with contractual issues, right? Well, Ayuk
Right.
and stuff. And their offensive tackle as well. So they kind of ironed all those issues out, and they win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. But now you got to get on a plane and go to Minnesota, and that Super Bowl hangover starts to creep in. And I will say, Loud, the line, I got Minnesota earlier. I bet them earlier this week, plus 5.5. It's gone down to 4. So the sharp action right now is on the Vikings.
Right.
So that would
and Christian McCaffrey,
He's
being
out.
announced that he's out, and not only is he out, he's headed to the injured reserve.
Yes,
So I think that had a psychological effect. And to me, that could be dumb money as much as smart money, because it's a bunch of people suddenly going, oh, McCaffrey's out. Did you see how good that backup running back looked?
Yeah,
he had 150 yards against the Jets.
Yeah.
And the Vikings defense is not as good as the Jets defense. So again, this is a basic betting strategy. If you want to have some fun and don't want to put a bunch of money out, but having a $20 bet and your maximum payout is $38.50 is not nearly as exciting as having a $20 bet and your maximum payout is $150.
Absolutely.
And so it makes all these games more interesting because you're invested in whether or not which team is going to win. Anyway, that's just sort of a basic betting strategy. NFL that I like to do. But you know what? 60% of the time, somebody loses.
Yeah.
Especially in the NFL.
Well, yeah. I mean, you want to look back at week 1. So the Circa Survivor contest, I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
Oh,
but,
a bunch of people were on the Bengals. Like 70% are out, right?
Yeah. It's like, I think 60% of the field is out. It's unbelievable. And that's a massive amount of entries too. And their season is over. No more Survivor till next year. So
just insane.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So I do play Survivor. It's not nearly as big of a pool. But I was thinking about taking the Bengals all week, and last minute I put the Saints in because in my head I'm thinking, am I going to use the Saints again the rest of the year? I don't think so. They're only laying 3 or 4.
Team playing this year was going to be Carolina.
Yes, and I wound up not caring about that game after the first quarter. It was over, so I lucked out. But I'll tell you this: my theory for Survivor this week, I actually had the Ravens because they should win against the Raiders. But I don't know, man. I got some friends in the industry. They said, watch out for the Raiders this week. So I kind of scared me off the Ravens a little bit. Then I put in the Chargers. I got the Chargers there right now. I'm even thinking about changing to the Seahawks. I don't know if I'm going to use the Seahawks again the rest of the year. But New England beat the Bengals last week. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to the Ravens. But right now, as it says, I'm taking the Chargers.
So I've got a premium bet at Winners and Winers on the Ravens and the Raiders point spread. So I can't talk about that. Now I do have the Ravens on the money line on my parlay card, but I have a point spread bet over at Winners and Winers that you need to take a look at because I feel very confident about it. And then I have a premium pick on the 49ers and Viking game. And of course, I like the 49ers, but this is a point spread bet over there. If it was money line, I'd be looking at the 49ers on my card, but I have a point spread bet behind the paywall. So you need to check that out. My other public bets that I personally have over at Little Creek, of course, that's the only legal way to gamble in Washington, is in an actual casino. Pittsburgh Steelers money line against the Broncos. Your take on that game? If you want to get one.
I have some buddies that say the Steelers are the lock of the week, but I disagree, man. I know that Denver did not look all that great last week, but I will say this. If I told you that one team scored a couple touchdowns and the other team did not score any touchdowns at all in the game, which teams would you think that is? The Steelers didn't score a touchdown.
Steelers didn't score a touchdown, no.
So, the Broncos, as bad as they looked, I mean, they're going home to Mile High. The Steelers got to fly to Denver. You got altitude issues there. You have Justin Fields, who might turn the ball over here and there because he runs the ball all the time. And, I would, to be honest with you, I would probably lean Broncos in this spot over the Steelers. Believe me, the public is on the Steelers too. And I usually play contrarian.
And that always scares me when everybody's on one team. The Los Angeles Rams were a -1.5 favorite when that line opened against the Cardinals earlier in the week. I got them at +1 on Friday. I'm not sure where that line is exactly right now, but I like the Rams in that one. Eagles have the Falcons coming to town. Kirk Cousins does not look right at all. They looked terrible. I don't think he's healthy. I've got the Eagles -6.5 in that one. And then you had mentioned the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks -3 points in that game against the New England Patriots. It is very difficult to play as a visiting team there. And Seattle doesn't turn the ball over a lot. They don't make a huge number of mistakes. It's like Geno Smith turned into a completely different quarterback once he went to Seattle. And they've got a great running game, and they can play defense. So -3 is the play on that game for me for the Seattle Seahawks. All right. Any quick final NFL thoughts before we kick this out for the week here on Betting in the Break?
Well, I would say I'll just give you some leans that I have that are not behind the paywall. I did a show with some other guys this week, and these were the plays I gave out. I won't do the analysis. It'll take too long, but I do like Tampa Bay and Detroit over 51.5. I like the Jags -3 or 3.5 over the Browns, although that's a really big public play, so it's scary because everyone and their mother's on the Jags. I like the Saints +6.5 over the Cowboys. Sounds scary, but I think it's week one overreaction. I do. I like the Saints. I think they hang tough. I like the Bengals to hang tough over the Chiefs +5 or 5.5. It might even be 6 in some places. This is the biggest week one overreaction of all. The Bengals are done and the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. That's the biggest overreaction of all.
I don't think the Bengals are done. I'm just on the Chiefs because it's in Arrowhead and it's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So
no, I have no gripe with that. I completely understand the thought process. And I get that the Bengals, they still might not have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. He had 6 passes. He caught 6 passes for 62 yards, so he didn't do a lot. And they also had a defensive back, like talking about how Worthy, the Chiefs' new wide receiver, he just goes side to side. He can't go up and down. If you just get your hands on him.
And Jamar Chase said that the Bengals were the team to beat in the AFC. Yeah, so everybody knows
a lot of bulletin board material for Kansas City, but still, I like the Bengals. But it is kind of scary because the Bengals are slow starters. I think Burrow, he's like 1-9 in his first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah,
they take a while to get going. But still, this is just, for me, it's classic week one overreaction.
Right, so you give the Aaron Rodgers answer. Everybody relax.
RELAX. Right.
All right. When it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals, he is Sniper West. Where do you find your stuff if somebody's looking for it, Sniper?
You can find me at Twitter at the Sniper Picks and over at Winners and Winers, the #1 sports consultant in the business.
Okay. And you can find my stuff over at Winners and Winers as well. I am Loud Esmond. This has been Betting in the Break for Saturday night. Catch us tomorrow night at the same time. We'll be talking about the Sunday night NFL game, giving you some picks and some props in that game, and also Monday night NFL, and maybe an early peek at the Thursday night football game. Hey, thanks for being here, everybody, here on Betting in the Break. I'm Loud. He's Sniper. We're going to be out now.